Call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, got to take the roll?
Yes, please.
Sorry.
Mr. Elick? Mr. Gebhardt?
Here.
Ms. Karstafen?
Here.
Mr. Hauser?
Here.
And Mrs. Seguin.
Now would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to introduce our group up here. Annie Karstafen to my left. I guess I don't have anybody on this side. Glenn Hauser next to her. Our superintendent, Ann Schloss, and our award-winning treasurer, Joy Clickinger. I guess we have a presentation by Denise Blatt tonight.
Yes, it's actually my team here, so come on up. I've got both screens for, depending on where you're sitting, but we're going to be talking over here. First, I'd like to introduce ourselves. I'm Denise Blatt, and then this is Amy Bogart. She's our Assistant Pupil Services Director. And then these are some new employees that we've added to our team to help support behavior initiatives across the district. Carrie Circoni, who's working at with our middle schools. Molly Neubauer, who's working at EHS, and Holly Campbell, who's working with our elementary building. So it's kind of a team effort tonight. So we're going to make it short and sweet, just kind of give you an overview. I did email this all to you the other day, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So first, what is Pbis? Stands for Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports, and it was state mandated that you start to use it back in 2014, just on a mild level, and then 2 years ago, House Bill 318 was passed and mandated you bringing it to the next level. You have to have district trainers train your staff, and then the most recent revision was that it requires all employees that are working directly with children to participate in a 3-hour training every 3 years, along with implementation, and you have to show implementation progress from the district to the state. So that's just a brief overview of that. We're going to talk to you today just about the who, what, where, and why we're doing this. So the who, all staff, all students have been encompassed in our Pbis initiative. Pbis involves all of our stakeholders, like I said. We even have to train our food service workers, our bus drivers, all students, or all people that have interactions with students. You know, with all of our staff, we expect that they maintain expectations aligned with their Pbis matrix. So at the end of last year, we started the first bit of this work, and they worked with their teams on building their matrix that fits their building. All students, too, are active participants within establishing and demonstrating the expected behaviors that their teachers are even school, I guess, all workers are pushing down on them. And then caregivers. We have trainings that we're offering at the elementaries for parents, because we want to even roll that out to them so the same language and expectations are being carried through all environments. So that's the who. The what? Pbis is a framework implementation. There's tiered levels of supports for interventions. Tier 1 is all students. So it's expected that all students at some point will receive some type of intervention. That should be about 80% of your students. The next level is Tier 2, and that is about 10%, 10 to 15. And then Tier 3, which is your smallest population, but also your most needy, is the top tier, and that's about 5%, give or take. So, but what we're doing is we are developing a consistent system and support structure. So that's within each of the buildings. They did that. Clear expectations. So we ask that they, depending on the needs and grade level, with the needs within their building and their grade level, that they develop what those needs look like. Comprehensive instruction. So just like academics, we instruct what we want them to learn. So we're instructing kids on what we expect their behaviors to be. So kind of going back to those basics. And community connections, making sure that all people are involved in those. So if we do have concerns, we're reaching out to the parents and other resources, so there's connections all around to support. That's the what. And this is just a little overview of the tiers that I talked about. Again, tier 1 is all, it's the biggest one. Tier 2 is some of your students, and tier 3 is typically your smallest amount, but yet your most needy. So there's a little structure for that. These are the clear expectations. The district developed one overall matrix, which was the be respectful, be responsible, be ready. And then from there, each building developed their own, what that looks like in their building. Because obviously your lower grades will look different from your high school. And this is an example of EHSs, which is very pretty. Good job, EHS. Yeah. And again, establishing those expected behaviors. This is an example in an elementary classroom where the teacher actually posted what those look like in a board of things we should be doing and things we should not be engaging in. So some visual supports there. And then, just to note, Pbis is often thought of as just being like tickets or tokens and earning stuff. And it's not just that. It goes into the next layer. It's acknowledging students for doing what's expected and acknowledging them in different ways, such as recognition as far as, today you've made growth even. You can sit in the teacher's chair. It's not all tangible stuff. Again, it's going back to relationship building. The where. It's an all, this is Amy.
All right, so we are implementing Pbis across every environment in the school setting. You can see on the Pbis expectations matrix, this is just one example, but we asked the teams to put in what the behavior expectations would be in each area of the school building. So not every matrix in every building is going to look exactly like this, but that's why we think it's really important to train every staff member, every bus aide, every bus driver, because they're going to have to be implementing this as well. And then we worked with our teams on developing clear expectations. We call it passing the stranger test, so that anybody would be able to say that that student is demonstrating the expected behavior. The why, we want to see improvements in behaviors across all of our grade levels, and we want to go back to establishing relationships with the kids, that we're expecting an increase in achievement, having better relationships throughout our entire building, and then having some better community connections. So when we are working with the teams on Pbis, we go back to when, if a student doesn't know how to read, we teach them. If they don't know how to swim, we teach them. If they don't know how to multiply, we teach them. If they don't know how to drive, we teach them. But then if they don't know how to behave, we punish. So we need to go back to teaching them the expectations and how to behave. All right. Sure.
All right. So one initiative that we are using to support Tier 1 is PACS. PACS GPG is a research-based trauma-informed program, and it is set up as a system where we're teaching different skills that teachers can implement in the classroom that help to encourage emotional regulation in kids and build community. There's also PACS tools and other programs that are being given to support personnel and offered to parents.
And we actually went through our first round of PACS training, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, where we trained all teachers that were working at that time, pre-K through 10th grade. So it was already a framework that the majority of our staff knew and that we're trained in.
So at the elementary level, first we have our building matrix. Each building has their matrix, which are linked here, and they all look a little bit different, though they all begin with those basic 3 tenets. On top of that, we really focus, especially at the elementary level, on explicit instruction. What does it look like to perform these behaviors, and what should we be seeing. At one of the schools, for instance, the top picture is the teachers and staff on one of our days where we prepped for Pbis took pictures of themselves doing expected and non-preferred actions, and then put it up in what we call a PAX vision, which is part of the program. It works just like a matrix to make sure it's very clear and the students have set expectations. Another thing that some of the buildings are doing are things like a spotlight, where we take items out of the matrix from the column, this one's a hallway, so that that can be posted in those areas to make sure it's very clear and easily referenceable. PAX right now is a big push at the elementary level. As I mentioned, it is research-based. We're starting with vision as our big push. And this works, like I mentioned, very much like a matrix, but is broken down in language that's very accessible for students. So we're talking about what we want to see, do, hear, and feel more and less of. And the students come to these conclusions with their teacher as a class and create community expectations. There's other kernels. Each kernel helps to set students up for success in different ways through emotional regulation, understanding time management, and making it so that correcting or pre-correcting behaviors doesn't have to come from a punitive place. Instead, it's a group collaboration to make sure we're getting where we need to be.
So I also included the building matrix for each of the buildings, but also when everybody came back in August, each grade level team met to develop their action plan. So that was really digging in deep. Like Denise said, it's not just tickets and tokens, it's how you're going to teach it, how you're going to model it, how you're going to reinforce it, how you're going to continue to practice it, how you're going to use that data to develop different goals, and keep looking through those action plans. So each grade level team met, developed their action plans, and then they're going to keep meeting throughout the year to see how things need to be adjusted. So in my pictures, I have Brenda Whitman. She was going around and delivering each matrix around the building. So they're in the classrooms, they're in the hallways, they're by the bathrooms. They're everywhere where you can see them. They also have the voice levels that are referenced. So in the hallways, voice level 0 to 1. Everybody knows and explicitly explains what that looks like in each of the voice levels. And also, like Holly was saying, part of the instruction was what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like. So they know exactly what those expectations are going to look like in each of those areas.
And again, you can notice the difference between the elementary that she was showing, the graphics versus middle school. You want it to be age appropriate, so that's kind of how we are, why we're presenting it this way.
Something that's also new at the middle school level is they started a win period, which is what I need. It's set up a little bit like a check-in, check-out. So they go to the same classroom with the same teacher at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And that's to give them the time to build relationships with the students outside of the academics. So each kid is going to need something different. Some may need that extra time with the academics. Some may need that time to build a relationship with the teacher. Some may need that extra social emotional learning. It's really whatever that student needs, whatever that teacher needs, and they have that time at the beginning and end of the day to do that. So I know we're getting close to time, so I'm not going to read through all of these, but I really wanted to, when we started planning this presentation, I reached out to each of the middle schools just to get their, how they think WIN is going, how Pbis is going, and it was really cool what they said. I was really impressed to get their perception of what it's looking like in each of their buildings.
So the high school, we saw our matrix earlier. This is another look at it. Again, like Denise said, it's age appropriate, so ours looks a little more older. It uses larger language, vocabulary that's more comfortable for high school students. So we're not talking about like hugs and bubbles in the hallway. And our big thing is creating that. We developed an action plan. Our action plan was developed by the team throughout the summer and in the beginning of the fall, and then was directed to be taken by teachers to implement in the extended homeroom period that now happens at the high school once a week, so that action plan could be modified by each teacher for their own teaching styles. If you have to be comfortable with Pbis, when you're teaching about behavior, it has to be in your own style. It can't be my style going into Holly's classroom. We are very different personalities, and if we taught the same thing, it would look ridiculous. For me, sorry. But yeah, and then we have freshman extension. So the freshman extension gives an opportunity for our freshmen, which is a targeted group where we saw higher levels of behavior in previous years, to come and get some tutoring, get some community building, play some games and those type of activities during their lunch periods. So they can go up to this room, it's staffed by freshman teachers, and they can interact with the teachers on a community building level, a relationship building level, and or to experience tutoring and support academically. We have data to show that this is helping and that freshmen are no longer our highest rating negative behaviors in our log entries and discipline data. So that's been really beneficial. And then extended homeroom again is just like the wing period, except in the high school it is only on Wednesdays. There's a cycle of activities that they're doing that include things like graduation requirements, social emotional instruction, community building opportunities, and fun stuff also, like they got to do stuff for homecoming in that time, and then earned time teachers in the face. And then we also have Link Crew, which is our upperclassmen supporting freshmen as they enter the building to kind of understand the behaviors, what's expected of them.
And then this is so far, so we started our more intensive work actually back in 1920. That's when there were several staff members that went for the 3-day training, train the trainer. And then this just kind of shows a timeline of what we've been doing. I know that now it seems like it's a big push, but we've actually started layering this back in 2019. So in October of 2021, we sent district teams from each elementary and middle school to be Tier 3 trained. And then at the end of the year, we started our work in May. And then we also gave staff time over the summer if they wished to work on those. And then in August of 2022, we're still continuing the work and we'll continue throughout the year. We've designated our professional growth this year 4 packs and we're excited about it. So, and all this aligns with our overall one plan goal that we're required to do for the state. So it's all intertwined. So I think that was it. Any questions?
Yeah, I did have, I have one question, but I think, what's your name with the green? I'm sorry.
Molly.
Molly, I think you may have touched on, I wanted to know how were you monitoring and measuring progress, but I think you said you have data
Yep.
that was
So
supporting.
at the high school specifically, we're using our log entry data, which is the discipline referrals, and looking at it that way. So far, our suspensions are down 28%.
Across the district.
Okay.
Yeah. And then our freshman targeted population has reduced as well.
Okay, thank you. And then I had another question, let me see. It was, okay, when you were talking about what is the PACS, I wanted to know, you said that at one time you had all of the teachers from K through 10 who went for the training. What about the new teachers? How are you educating them?
So we actually, the new teachers that are trained this year, they're getting that training on our first PD day, which I believe is November 8th. And then we're having another layer for that on January 27th. And those are both half days, so the other half they can still spend time in their building. Mm-hmm. So they're exposed to that. And then we are offering another PACS tools for our parents next month over on the Westwood side in combination with Holly and our community engagement liaisons, which are parents working in our building, trying to extend that relationship with our parents.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it's all intertwined and,
Okay.
yeah. So.
Yeah, all right.
If I could just make mention, we were very fortunate, these were the positions we talked to you about adding back last spring, but I don't know how we got so lucky because the 3, that we added had such extensive background in working with strategies and behavior, and we're just so fortunate, and they've been a great addition to the team, and obviously we know what a great job Amy and Denise and their team does, but they've been welcomed. We're hearing a lot of very positive feedback from both staff and parents.
Wonderful, wonderful.
We're also working with the state support team very closely on all this too, and continuing to push down, looking at that data more closely in our data teams on behavior and what that should, and targeting our interventions accordingly to those data, just like we would academics. We do it with academics, and we are trying to extend it to that behavior realm as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, not really a question, just a comment. Really, really good presentation.
Thank you.
That was really, really great. And Holly and Molly And Carrie? Carrie? Yeah, welcome. This is an important area, and Amy and Denise, and it's just wonderful. I know you guys really understand the material well, so it's good. We're excited to see the presentation and how it's going.
Well, thank you. We plan on getting updates throughout the year. We are tracking data a lot, so
Good.
all different aspects of it and comparing it in different ways. Attendance too,
Yeah.
so we hope that with this, we'll see some changes district-wide.
The teachers are going to be really busy.
Oh, yeah, we're all busy, yeah.
That's very
It's like
nice.
all hands on deck, so, yeah. That's great.
This is something the state's doing too, right?
It is, it was mandated through that House Bill 318, and that was also too, I know, there was some misunderstanding with House Bill 318 where they thought about, it was portrayed that there were no more suspensions allowed in those early grades, but it wasn't really that. This was another part of it, that we need to be addressing those behaviors instead of putting little ones out of school all the time, unless it's an act of violence or assault or something of that nature. This was another layer to that, and it's all required, so by the state. Like, we have to report on this quarterly, what we're doing.
So you're not putting kids out, the
No,
younger grades?
that was a misunderstanding. A lot of people
Okay.
thought you couldn't suspend them. It's just they reduced them to only acts of violence or assault in those younger grades. And
Okay.
require that if you are putting them out, you need to be giving positive behavioral interventions and support rather than just punishing. You've got to be teaching them alternate things because they may not be getting it somewhere else.
So,
All right.
All right, thank you.
very good.
Denise, Holly, Molly, Amy, and Carrie, thanks for a good presentation.
We refer to them as the Ollies.
The Ollie?
The Ollies.
That's good.
And Amy recently came up with a new one. Oh, dear. Jolly.
Wait, just an FYI, President Ellick is sick today, and Elaine is at training for her work, so that's why they are not here. All right, moving on. Visitors' comments. Do we have any visitors' comments? Okay. The school board encourages and appreciates citizens' interest in meetings of the school board. Normally, the board will meet twice during the month and will make accommodations to allow public participation. Persons wishing to address the board for up to 5 minutes may place their name on a sign-up sheet indicating the topic they wish to address, or make a written request to the treasurer's office 1 week in advance of the board meeting to speak for up to 15 minutes. Each meeting participant will be invited to speak directly to the board so that their remarks may be clearly heard and questions may be answered, may be asked. Got cheaters on tonight, so. Board of Education, do we have any? Okay, moving on. Meeting minutes for our September 21st meeting as detailed in closure F1.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the motion?
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Hauser?
Aye.
And Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye. Treasurer's actions.
Okay, I just have a couple things this evening. The first is to approve the attached list of purchase orders to comply with our purchasing procedures. And the second is to acknowledge and express appreciation for the $100 donation to Science Olympiad from Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories.
Can I have a motion to approve the items recommended by the treasurer?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Support.
I take it there's no discussion. Want to call the roll, please?
Mr. Hauser?
Aye.
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
And Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye. Treasurer other, I don't think you have anything. Treasurer's report?
Nope.
Nothing, oh, okay. OFCC, OSFC, I don't think we have anything. Superintendent actions.
I do have a few, thank you. First of all, to approve the use of Oberlin College Rec Department for our swim team this year. To approve the overnight field trip for Elyria City Schools robotics to Tennessee. To approve the contract with Spectrum Growth for IEP services. To approve the food services management agreement. That is a 5-year contract, but we renew it annually. To approve the stipend for the following certified staff. To approve the payment of up to 25 hours to the following staff member for additional IEP obligations. To approve the hourly rate not to exceed 6 hours for the after-school program. To approve the following certified staff as for tutoring for the 22-23 school year. To approve the payment for additional duties as associated with the Pioneer Academy program. And that concludes my action items.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the treasures, or the,
Motion.
thank you.
Second?
Want to call the roll?
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Hauser?
Aye.
And Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye. Treasurers other? Oh, I'm sorry, superintendent other report.
Nothing tonight, but I do have personnel action items. First is to approve the resignation of the following certified staff. Amy Kier, the teaching and learning coordinator who's been here 28 years, is moving to New Hampshire. So she's going east, and we've loved having Amy. She's been a rock in the language arts and social studies area, and teaching at Windsor early on, so we will miss her dearly. To approve the resignation of the following certified staff. To approve the unpaid leave of absence of the following certified staff. To approve the appointment of the following certified staff. I think we're up to close to 50 subs now. To approve the supplemental contracts of the following certified staff member. To approve the following athletic supplemental contracts. To approve the payment for after-school tutoring of the following certified staff members. To approve the following game workers for the 22-23 school year for athletic services. To approve the termination of the following classified staff member. To approve the resignation of the following classified staff member. To approve the appointment of the following classified. As you can see, we have some getting promotions, some moving around. And that concludes my personnel action items.
Could I have a motion?
So
for the
moved.
Second?
Well, I would second that. Do you have any progress with the search for a baseball coach?
Those interviews are happening next week.
Oh, good.
One other question about the building subs. How does that work? When you have a building sub that they're here the year, do they stay in one building?
So for the most part, they're dedicated to one building. If, for instance, at Westwood Elementary, no one is out that day, and maybe Eastern Heights Elementary has 6 people out, we may send them over to help out. But they are pretty much dedicated to those buildings, and it just guarantees that we have some subs. The nice thing about building subs is then that we aren't sharing them with other districts just on the sub list, or they may get, grabbed away.
Yeah.
So we found that, during COVID, we had them years and years ago and then didn't need them as much, and during COVID, we brought them back, and we've kept them. With the sub shortage, it's been a really good way to keep good subs.
Like, how many of them are there? Is it one for each building?
We have 1 in each building and then 2 at the high school. And we also added another district one because of the need for not a whole day, but we have some, sometimes a medical reason, we just need it for a few periods here, a few periods there. So we got a district building sub that can run around to different buildings for us and fill in as needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, discussion? You want to call the roll?
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Hauser?
Aye.
And Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye. Other personnel items recommended?
No, just a report. First, I'd like to introduce our new head wrestling coach, Armando Torres.
Welcome.
You might know, Armando's a product of our high school. He wrestled under Mr. Burnett. Mr. Burnett is stepping down to an assistant coaching role so that he can have time to go see his own children wrestle, which is important. But he speaks very highly of Armando, and we are really excited to have him here. He's working as a mental health counselor also at the high school. So great connections with students, and I'm sure that'll carry over on the mat, so to speak. He has big shoes to fill.
Yes. Got that right.
And then a couple announcements. I attended on Saturday with Amy Higgins and Joy Jones, the NAACP Freedom Fund Scholarship Dinner. And one of our own, Jody Johnson, received the Educational Excellence Award. So that was really nice to be there to support Jody and want to congratulate her. Also, on Tuesday, the Elyria High School Choir had a really nice choir concert. I heard wonderful things. Unfortunately, I was in Columbus at meetings, but I heard a lot of good things about the choir concert, and would like to say that this is the time of year where the buildings start having their family nights, and I know Westwood Elementary had a really, really neat science night last week, and please watch on our Twitter feed, our Facebook feed, and also your newsletters from your buildings, all the family nights, that they're great experiences to come out and get engaged with your child's education. And then also conference season. It's conference season where you get to come in and meet the teachers and hear about the progress of your students. So that is about it. We have Avon Lake at the stadium on Friday, and that is it.
Thank you. Board of Education, anything? I do have one thing. We got a kicker
Yes, we
at
did.
the high school, and he actually kicked 5 extra points, if I remember right. So it was very nice to have a kicker for the football team.
That's good.
Board of Policy, first reading. How do we,
Just like any resolution, we just need a motion and a second, then roll
okay,
call.
so that's all we need? Could I have a motion then?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
No, I read it.
You want to call the roll?
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Hauser?
Aye.
And Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye. I don't think we have an executive session tonight, so could I have
So moved.
a second?
Support.
For adjournment? Call the roll?
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Hauser?
Aye.
And Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye. I'm not used to going that. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Great job, Mike.